As the Kansas City Chiefs get strapped up and put the pads on for the first time this training camp, we are going to dive into all the action that took place to kick off the week. But before we do dive into that, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video because I'm going to keep you up to date on anything Kansas City Chief related that you do not want to miss out on throughout the season. And without further ado, let's dive into some of this action. So we got some quite pleasant surprise to kick off the week with Orlando Brown Jr. And he is ending his holdout. A very short-lived holdout, but all the Chiefs Kingdom and probably the Kansas City Chiefs are very grateful for that because like I mentioned in plenty of videos, because we have covered Orlando Brown throughout the offseason, is I did not know how long this was going to go, and I did not think it was going to be this short. Like I mentioned in my prior video, I thought if I was going to be hopeful with any of this, maybe he's back by week 2 of the preseason, and then, you know, he can get that third game, get conditioning done, and then be ready for week 1. That was my optimism behind all of this. But to see him coming basically back when pads are full go, that's excitement. That basically was the final piece to the puzzle. Now, when I say he's back, he did not show up to camp this week, but reports are that he will show up. He didn't show up today, but he will show up this week. So we're going to all keep our eyes for it. I think he was in the facility. He just didn't practice today. He was probably doing some conditioning, some testing, and things like that before he gets on the field. You know, football player type of stuff. But it's great news to hear because, like I mentioned, if Orlando Brown wants to get paid like the best left tackle, he's got to play like the best left tackle. And that's what Kansas City Chiefs are banking on. And specifically in a season where a lot of things have changed for the Kansas City Chiefs roster, that line, it needs to be the sturdy point to make sure all these new pieces, all these new skill assets on this offense can get to clicking to make sure Patrick Mahomes is up and sturdy throughout the season. Now, speaking on Mahomes being up and sturdy throughout the season, we got quite a little scare. And I don't care if it's anything minor, definitely major. Once you hear your quarterback, your franchise player got hurt and he's limping, you got my attention, and it's not the kind of thing I wanted to start my morning with. Thankfully, though, he just got his foot stepped on, and that's why he was limping off the field, but that was the injury being reported. Like I mentioned, last thing I want to hear is basically the franchise player, the reason we can go to AFC championships every year, the reason we can contend for Super Bowls every year, in Patrick Mahomes being hurt, definitely this early in training camp. No, I don't want to hear it, not whatsoever. Now, I'm not that type of guy who will be like, wrap it up, just he'll be ready week 1 and go. Because, one, I don't believe that. I mean, if anyone can, it is Mahomes, but also, two, I also know that's just not likely, and that's not how Andy Reid rolls. You can go all the way back to his Philly days. His players, his starters specifically, they will play. They will train. He wants to make sure that they will succeed early on, and that's why Andy Reid tends to have a really good record once the regular season starts. So as much as we would like to be like, just shelf him until week 1, it's not likely, and it definitely won't happen because that's just not the type of coach Reid is. And I completely understand with it too, because you don't want your players to come in lackluster or rusty early in the season. Definitely in this loaded AFC where every game is going to matter, specifically in the AFC West. And when you verse the Chargers week 2 and then you got an early Monday night matchup against the Raiders, yet you can't be lacking, specifically when those teams basically bolstered up to beat you. Yeah, you're going to need them on their A game. So I understand, but I definitely grasp for air when your quarterback, you hear he's hurt and he's limping. So I understand where Chiefs Kingdom is coming from because I was with you this morning, but he needs to train. He will probably be out there tomorrow. He'll probably be doing his crazy behind the back stuff that we are used to seeing. But thankful it's nothing major, and I'm just glad he is healthy. Now, I'm actually a little excited to talk about this, which, quite frankly, I didn't think I would be. But the pass rushers, let's talk about it because it's going to be quite interesting throughout the season. Because when we started the offseason and ending the regular season and postseason, we thought this is definitely like a position of need. We need to bolster it up, and we need like pressure on the quarterback however and whenever. And then we go sign Carlos Dunlap, which, as you've heard me mention and as you heard me hoping that if we would sign him, A-plus signing. I love it. I think it was a need, and I think it definitely addresses basically replacing Melvin Ingram. But one thing I didn't catch or expect when camp started was the presence Frank Clark would bring. And the kind of, I don't want to say position, but the kind of Let's stick with position, but like how he would come into camp, he basically came completely different, which for the best, honestly. Like you could tell, he's changed his mindset. He's also become a huge leader for rookie George Karlaftis. You could see him help training on techniques, which I love to see. I know he's been like the butt of media jokes and social media jokes, being like, why, if anyone is training George Karlaftis, but I respect it because he is, at the end of the day, an NFL pass rusher, and he has had success in this league, and he has had success with the Kansas City Chiefs, and it wasn't long ago. So I think he can give George Karlaftis positive pass rushing moves, and also too techniques that George Karlaftis might not be used to because they're both different type of rushers. Frank Clark, his asset is he gonna get you on speed, and then George Karlaftis, he gonna bulldoze his ass through alignment, which we've seen today. But we also seen today Frank Clark, he had his beautiful swim move. If he wasn't faster than ever, he seemed just as fast as he used to be, and that was exciting to see because when I saw him swimming around the alignment, I was like, oh, I did not expect that. I really didn't, because I don't know what type of expectations to hold for Frank Clark this year, but I will tell you what, he's basically that wild card. Because I will say this, let's say Frank Clark has 10 sacks this year. A lot of us are like, that could be unrealistic. That could be a lot, especially for Frank Clark and how he has produced in the last 2 years. When, if you combine those last 2 year numbers, they don't equate to 10 sacks. But if Frank Clark has 10 sacks, Kansas City is going to have a top 5 defense, and it's going to be scary to see. Now, I'm not banking he's going to have 10 sacks, but I love his mindset. I love the leadership he came in, and I love the type of shape he's come in, where he's in a position where you could tell it's a prove it year. You could tell he loves to prove doubters wrong. And we all know where he's from. That's the type of chip on his shoulder he will run with. And I think he will be the biggest, diamond in the rough that a lot of people aren't focusing on. Because if you just focus on the AFC, in particular the AFC West, they all stacked up to go after Mahomes. Let's focus on the Raiders. They got Chandler Jones, Max Crosby. The Chargers, they got Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. And then you got the Broncos with Bradley Chubb and Randy Gregory. They all got 2 solid pass rushers. And then you look at Kansas City and you're like, damn, we are lacking compared to what everyone else in the AFC West did. But let's look at it more in depth. Just because they have people like that doesn't mean Kansas City does either. Frank Clark and Chris Jones are 2 high-end players who have done it in this league and who are getting paid to do it in this league. Chris Jones, we anticipate him to bounce back, definitely with him playing full-time in the defensive tackle position. But if Frank Clark, if he can do 10 sacks, that makes Kansas City such a scary team, that they're stopping offenses and that Mahomes can do what he can do. Mahomes has never had a really great defense to complement his offense. Just imagine. Really, imagine that. And then if George Karlaftis can come in and have in his rookie year 6 to 8 sacks, and then you have Dunlap coming off the bench or rotational like Melvin Ingram did, and he produces more than a Melvin Ingram, because like I mentioned, I think he is a better pass rusher at this point in his career than Melvin Ingram. This D-line might be more scarier than what a lot of people anticipate. And that's what caught my eye, and that's what I'm actually most excited to see. Because if a Frank Clark comes out healthy and in the best shape of his life, and we see a Seattle type of Frank Clark or the Super Bowl run type of Frank Clark throughout the season, league, watch out, because Kansas City is about to be really, really scared. And we are about to wrap this video up, but while we wrap this video up, let's go to the play of the day. And it is no other than Justin Watson. He was the offseason standout. We heard him training with Patrick Mahomes throughout the offseason. He was the one who caught Mahomes' attention. He went to Veach and was like, yo, how fast is this kid? Well, he displayed that speed today when he caught a slant route, basically took it upfield for 75 yards, and no one could catch him in the dust. Now, as nice as that play was, I still don't know where that stands for Justin Watson and if he's going to be a big asset on this team or if he's even going to make this team. He's going to be needing to make plays like this day in and day out and contribute even on special teams and in the preseason to make this roster. Because as we mentioned, time in and time out, This team is loaded at every position, and in specific, the wide receiver room. So if Justin Watson wants to make himself a name, it's going to have to be in preseason, and it's going to have to be on the special teams. But with that, Chiefs Kingdom, I'm going to close out this video, but before I do that, like I mentioned in the beginning, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video, as I will keep you up to date on anything Kansas City Chiefs related that you do not want to miss out on. And without further ado, y'all take care. Peace.